Karen's voice sliced through the evening air like a chainsaw through butter, shrill and relentless. "This is my street, and I'll ticket every last one of you freeloaders," she bellowed, her fleshy jowls quivering as she loomed over my beat-up sedan, parked legally on 4th Avenue. The woman was a walking caricature obese, with a peroxide blonde bob that looked like it was styled by a lawnmower, and a sneer that could curdle milk. She was the kind of person who thrived on making others squirm, and tonight, she'd chosen me as her target. Little did she know, I wasn't just some random driver. I was Officer Daniel Reyes, off-duty but never off guard, and Karen was about to learn that her self-appointed reign as the neighborhood tyrant was on borrowed time. It was a muggy August evening in the city, the kind where the air clung to your skin like a bad decision. I'd parked my car outside Lenny's Deli to grab a coffee after a 12-hour shift at the precinct. My badge was tucked in my jacket, my gun holstered beneath it, out of sight, out of mind. I wasn't looking for trouble, but trouble, in the form of Karen, had found me. She stood there, scribbling furiously on a notepad, her pen digging into the paper like she was carving her own commandments. "You can't park here," she snapped, though the green-painted curb screamed otherwise. A small crowd had gathered a shopkeeper named Mr. Patel, wiping his hands on his apron, and a lanky kid with a skateboard, both watching with a mix of annoyance and resignation. Karen's antics were nothing new in this neighborhood, but tonight, she'd gone too far. "You hear me?" she barked, waddling closer to my car, her flip-flops slapping the pavement. "This is a no-parking zone, and I'm issuing you a ticket." She waved her notepad like it was a court order, her eyes gleaming with the kind of glee only a bully feels when they think they've won. I leaned against the deli's brick wall, sipping my coffee, letting her dig her own grave. "Ma'am," I said, calm as a summer lake, "that curb's marked for public parking. You're mistaken." Her head whipped around, her face reddening like a tomato left too long in the sun. "Mistaken? Mistaken? I've lived here for 15 years, and I say who parks where." She jabbed a sausage-like finger at me, her voice dripping with disdain. "You're just some nobody who thinks he can do whatever he wants." The kid with the skateboard snorted, quickly covering his mouth when Karen's glare shot his way. Mr. Patel shook his head, muttering something about "that woman" under his breath. Karen, oblivious to the growing tension, slapped her fake ticket under my windshield wiper, the paper fluttering like a white flag of her own defeat. "You'll pay for this," she hissed, "and I'm reporting you to the city for illegal parking." That's when I decided enough was enough. I set my coffee down on the deli's windowsill and stepped forward, my boots clicking softly on the asphalt. "Ma'am, I'd advise you to stop right there," I said, my tone still even, but now carrying the weight of authority I'd honed over years on the force. "That's not a real ticket, and impersonating an official is a crime." Karen froze, her eyes narrowing to slits. "Who do you think you are, talking to me like that?" she spat, her voice trembling with indignation. "I'm the neighborhood watch. I have authority here." The audacity was almost admirable, like watching a toddler declare themselves king of the sandbox. I reached into my jacket, pulling out my badge and holding it up just long enough for the streetlight to catch its gleam. "Officer Daniel Reyes, 14th Precinct," I said, my voice cutting through her bluster like a knife. "And you, ma'am, are in serious trouble." The air shifted. The kid's jaw dropped, his skateboard clattering to the ground. Mr. Patel's eyebrows shot up, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Karen, though, didn't back down. She doubled down. "You're lying," she screeched, her voice hitting a pitch that could shatter glass. "That badge is fake. You're just some thug trying to scare me." She fumbled for her phone, her fingers shaking as she dialed what I assumed was 911. "I'm reporting you for impersonating an officer," she declared, her eyes wild with defiance. It was almost sad, the way she clung to her delusion of power, unaware that she was sprinting toward her own downfall. I let her make the call, crossing my arms and leaning back against my car. The kid whispered to Mr. Patel, "Is she serious right now?" And Patel just shook his head, his expression a mix of pity and exasperation. Within minutes, a patrol car rolled up, its lights casting red and blue shadows across the street. Two officers stepped out, Jenkins and O'Malley, guys I'd worked with for years. Karen, still clutching her phone like a lifeline, launched into a tirade before they could even speak. "This man," she shrieked, pointing at me. "He's pretending to be a cop. He's threatening me. Arrest him." Jenkins, a burly guy with a mustache that could star in its own Western, glanced at me and smirked. "That's so, Dan?" he asked, playing along. I handed him my badge, and he made a show of inspecting it, though we both knew it was just for Karen's benefit. O'Malley, meanwhile, took one look at the ticket on my windshield and burst out laughing. "Ma'am," he said, holding up the crumpled paper. "This is a piece of notebook paper with $50 fine scrawled on it. You're not exactly the DMV." Karen's face went from red to purple, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. But I'm the neighborhood watch," she stammered. "I have the right." Jenkins raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, the neighborhood watch doesn't issue tickets. And impersonating a city official? That's a misdemeanor at best, felony if you've done it before." He glanced at me, his eyes asking if I wanted to press charges. I nodded slightly, my gaze never leaving Karen's. She'd terrorized this street for too long, Mr. Patel had told me stories of her harassing customers, bullying kids, even trying to find delivery drivers. It was time for her to face the consequences. As Jenkins read Karen her rights, her bravado crumbled. "This is outrageous," she wailed, her voice cracking. "I was just trying to keep the street clean. You can't do this to me." But the cuffs clicked around her wrists, and the reality of her situation hit her like a freight train. The kid with the skateboard cheered quietly, pumping his fist, while Mr. Patel clapped me on the shoulder. "Thank you, officer," he said, his voice thick with gratitude. "She's been a nightmare for years." As they loaded Karen into the patrol car, her complaints fading into a pathetic whine, I picked up my coffee and took a sip. It was cold now, but it tasted like victory. I filed a report for false authority that night, ensuring Karen's antics would be on record. The next day, word spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. People stopped by the deli to thank me, some even bringing pastries from the bakery down the street. Karen, I later heard, was slapped with a fine and community service, her neighborhood watch days effectively over. The street felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted, and for the first time in years, 4th Avenue seemed to breathe easier. Justice doesn't always come with sirens and handcuffs, but when it does, it's satisfying. Karen thought she could rule with her fake tickets and inflated ego, but she didn't count on running into someone who knew the law better than she ever would. Her downfall wasn't just a lesson for her, it was a reminder to everyone watching that no one is above accountability, not even the loudest voice on the block. And as I drove home that night, my sedan humming along the quiet streets, I couldn't help but smile. Sometimes, the universe has a way of balancing the scales. The end.